Welcome to this new video, which is likely to be the most viewed video in the entire history of this channel, because I am going to show you how I passed 3 evaluations of 3 funding accounts of $100,000 in less than a month with a method that has a certain statistical probability of passing that funding evaluation. And I say this seriously because I need you to stay for every minute of this video, as you have to take into account all the information I will provide so that you can also replicate the same method. Let's get started. First, subscribe to our channel for this type of valuable information videos regarding trading and algorithmic trading. And also, if you activate notifications, we will see each other live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Spanish time. Hit the subscribe button. I want to tell you that this method has a reliability of 50% probability for passing a funding account evaluation. What does this mean? That for every 2 attempts you make, 1 of them will pass. Out of every 100, 50 of them will pass you. It is necessary to understand that the fewer attempts you make in that statistic, the more varied your results will be. In other words, if you try 4 times, it does not mean that 2 will pass you. It could be 1, it could be 3, it could be 0, and it could be 4. But statistics and probability always indicate that when you test this many times, 50% will happen and the other 50% will not happen. That said, I want to tell you that what you are about to see is proof. It is the results of trying it several times on various funding accounts. To give you credibility for what I am saying, here you can see a funding account of $100,000. That is now at a balance of $108,000 in the trading pit. You can see that what they ask for is a profit target of 8%. Therefore, we have achieved it. It tells us here that it is a passed account. Therefore, this is an account we have obtained in the last month. Here you can see another account currently under review. It is a very recent one, also from the trading pit, for which you can see the balance is $108,000. That is to say, we have once again reached the profit target. Therefore, this is a second account I have achieved in the last month. Finally, I show you another provider where I have obtained a new account, which is at Funded Nets. Here, they are indeed 2 steps. Here we can see that this is the real one, but if I go to inactive accounts, you can see that there are 2, both phase 1 and phase 2. Here is phase 1, in which we have $108,000 in profit, which we started on September 12th. And then here we have phase 2, which is a 5% profit is usually required in the second phase by almost all funding companies, which we started on October 11th. Therefore, it is demonstrated that these are recently passed accounts. Well, I just showed you 4 past evaluations, 2 of which were single phase. Therefore, 2 have given us the real account. In Funded Nets, I had to pass phase 1 and phase 2 consecutively to have the account funded. I have passed 3 funding accounts, for which I had to complete 4 evaluations. In order for me to pass those 4 evaluations and for the statistics to hold true, I have to have paid for 8 accounts. That is to say, I have to have lost 4 of the same accounts. That is to say, I have to invest double the money to get half. And really, guys, a 50% probability of passing a funding account is a very high percentage. Now you are going to see the method I have used. For this, I have prepared a very visual presentation. Let's imagine we are at the starting point, which would be point 1. In which we have 2 options. The first trade we open can end positively or negatively. It should be clarified that we open trades at a risk of 1 to 1. Since the vast majority of funding accounts require an 8% target and we cannot lose more than 5% in a single day, what we are going to do is open trades with a profit target of 4% and a stop loss of 4% with a 1 to 1 ratio. Therefore, after the first trade, opened randomly on any asset you choose, I recommend that you open the trade on an asset where you pay the lowest possible commission, ideally one with no commission and a spread that is not too high. We open the first trade, and since it is opened randomly, it can either be positive or negative. It doesn't matter if we win or lose, we have a 50% probability. Now, what is the second situation? If we had a profit on the first trade, this would already be the second day. We cannot do the same on the same day. Well, if it falls into positive territory, yes, because we haven't consumed any of the 5% drop for that day yet. But Let's suppose we do this day after day to avoid consuming our entire maximum drawdown. On the second day, since we are already up 4% and our goal is to reach 8%, we open a trade randomly in which we risk 4% of our account from the initial balance, with a profit and a loss of that 4%. If in that case we hit the take profit again, that's it. We have passed the evaluation at 8%. Alright, so we have a 50% and another 50%. And obviously after the first day we have a 50% chance of having hit a stop loss. If instead of finishing positively on the first day, we had finished negatively, and if we end the second day negatively as well, we would already be down by 8. Let's say we lose the account. Most allow a 10% drop. Assume 8% to make it stricter. This gives us a probability that out of these 4 possible outcomes, namely positive positive, positive negative, negative positive, and negative negative, only one of them allows us to pass the evaluation, which is the one at the top of the toe. Therefore, with 2 attempts, we have a 25% probability of passing that funding account. But Ramon, you haven't told us that you have the 50%. Yeah, wait for it. Because the first situation, the first path, is at 25% and he has passed it. Great. The worst case scenario is that we end up with negative after negative and lose the account. In that case, we could consider it irrecoverable. But we have 2 more situations in which we can continue working. That is when we are at break-even, either positive or negative, and then on the second day we have made a positive of 4%. Both are at break-even. What can happen in these cases? It may happen that whether we end up positive or negative, well, it's the same case, at break-even for both. If the third one comes out positive, we are back to being 4% positive, right? If we go back into the negative, we are already at -4, but this can also be recovered. The same applies to the situation below, because it is exactly the same, right? Here we find ourselves in a situation where if the first was positive and the second negative, we could be at break-even. Therefore, we need 2 more positives in this case, or in the case below, consecutive positive positives, to reach our 8% profit in our account. Therefore, if we multiply 50% by 0.50, by 0.50 by 0.50, we get a 6.25% probability, which is valid for both upward and downward movements. Therefore, if we already add 25 for this path plus 6.25 plus 6.25, we are already at a 37.5% probability that all possible paths will be beneficial for us. I haven't continued with the tree, but if you know a little about trees and statistical probabilities, you'll know that if we make, for example, positive, negative, negative, and then chain another positive and positive, there is already another path in which we do well. If down here we go negative, positive, then negative again, and then here we make 2 positives in a row, it is another path that can also be beneficial for us, and we can take many paths until we reach an 8% profit. The sum of all the paths will give us the probability of this method, which ultimately tends toward 50%. In summary, if I spend €500 for a $100,000 account, or a $100,000 evaluation, market cost, I have to spend €1,000, that is 2 accounts of 100,000 for the statistics to hold and for me to pass it funded over there. We would lose the other one, but I repeat, this statistic works when you have enough trials. Statistics do not hold exactly when you only test it 1, 2, or 3 times. To have passed these 4 evaluations, luckily I only lost 3, but I could have lost 4, 5, or 6. But statistics hold true. In the medium and long term, you can start using this method manually right away. There is a risk. As you make trades, if you have commissions, they will eat away at your profit. Or the spread also reduces that percentage of profit. That is to say, if you open a buy position and win it at 4%, but then the next day, if you lose that 4%, you won't stay at 100,000. You'll end up at 900 or 800. Why? Because that difference has been eaten up by the spread. Therefore, if you have to chain many paths to reach that 8%, it's likely that you will be eaten up by the spread. This method can be applied with 2 trades, 4% and 4%, or you can also do it with 3 trades and not take on as much lot size in case you don't want to pay as much spread or commission, or for those funding accounts that require a 10%. With 10%, you do have to go through 3 jumps, since the maximum drawdown, which is why I have set a maximum of 4%, is usually allowed to be 5%. I would never allow a trade to lose me close to 5%. I would always set it at a maximum of 4%. Therefore, if we can set the risk at a maximum of 4%, the take profit must also be 4%. And to reach 10%, you have to do it in 3 tries. So I hope this method is useful to you. You can pass funding accounts. If so, tag me on social media so people know. This method is not infallible. It shows a probability of 50%. And I believe that this probability is much higher than that of most people trying to pass. Check the description of this video for discounts on providers and some funding accounts available. Hope they help. If so, like and comment. Above all, subscribe because this is high-value content. See you in the next live sessions. Bye.